The top stories tonight in Y News. The Philippine Senate ratifies the proposed Bayanihan II, which includes a 10 billion peso standby fund for the purchase of COVID-19 vaccine. The World Health Organization encourages countries to not only hope for a COVID-19 vaccine, but also improve their response strategies.
24/7 food delivery allowed in Metro Manila despite the 8 p.m. 5 a.m. curfew, according to MMDA. A lawmaker files a bill seeking to privatize PhilHealth.
The Australian Minister for Health announced that Australians could lose access to some welfare payments if they reject coronavirus vaccination after Prime Minister Scott Morrison acknowledged that coronavirus vaccination would not be deemed mandatory in Australia. To ensure a high uptake, Health Minister Greg Hunt said the government would take consideration in applying measures such as no jab, no pay. The United States government has officially suspended its extradition treaty with Hong Kong over concerns that the Chinese government's new national security law is eroding its autonomy. For its part, China strongly condemns the U.S. suspension of extradition treaty with Hong Kong and has decided to suspend Hong Kong's implementation of its treaty on mutual judicial assistance with the U.S., according to foreign spokesperson Zhao Lijian.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Thursday, August 20, 2020. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country. I am Harleen Delgado.
And I am Mariela Toza here in Perth, Australia, bringing you what's grabbing the headlines in other parts of the globe.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
Dr. Takeshi Kasai, WHO Western Pacific Region Director, says that he is very optimistic that a vaccine against COVID-19 will be available to the world. But at the same time, he is very cautious. Our health correspondent, Aiko Miguel, tells us why.
The whole world awaits an effective and safe vaccine against coronavirus disease 2019. On this, the World Health Organization Western Pacific Region Director is both very optimistic and very cautious.
Optimistic because I've been so impressed by the speed of development, as my colleague Dr. Escalante mentioned. But I'm also cautious because even they can really manage and then develop safe and effective vaccine, the production capacity would not really meet the demand coming from entire world. I think what is important is that we continue to improve our response and not just hope for the vaccine.
Aside from Russia's Sputnik V, there are 25 other vaccine manufacturers the Philippine government is in talks with to be able to get a chance to avail a vaccine once approved for public use. In October, a parallel clinical trial on Sputnik V in the Philippines and in Russia is expected to take place. Dr. Kasai assures that countries in the Western Pacific region like the Philippines will have a fair access to safe COVID-19 vaccines from countries. WHO took the initiative to create an access to the COVID-19 tool accelerator.
It will not belong to one country, but should belongs to every countries. Unless every countries are protected, no countries is safe. This is initiatives to expedite the development so that people can have a volume that people can access the safe and effective vaccine. But not only that, this is the initiative to try to find the way to distribute those vaccine in safe and in a fair manner around the world.
Last month, the DOH said that the Philippines is participating in the Gavi COVID-19 Vaccines Global Access or COVAX facility. This is a global collaboration between WHO and other organizations for a faster development and distribution of COVID-19 vaccines, tests, and treatment. More than 150 countries are part of the global facility, which aims to deliver 2 billion doses of safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines to countries, which are expected to be approved by the end of 2021. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Senate ratifies the bicameral conference committee-approved version of the Bayanihan to Recover as One Act, commonly known as the Bayanihan II. 140 billion pesos of regular fund has been appropriated in the proposed measure, which authorizes the president to exercise powers necessary to implement COVID-19 response and recovery interventions. It also provides 25.5 billion pesos of standby fund, which include 10 billion pesos for the purchase of the COVID-19 vaccine. According to Senate Committee on Finance Chair Senator Sonny Angara, at least 40 billion pesos were allocated for the health sector, which include 4.5 billion pesos for the construction of temporary isolation facilities, 3 billion pesos for the purchase of face masks and personal protective equipment, 5 billion pesos for the hiring of more contact tracers, and 13.5 billion pesos for the employment of emergency human resources for health, and 10,000 pesos special risk allowance every month for healthcare workers and aid for healthcare workers who will contract mild to moderate cases of COVID-19. 13 billion pesos will be allocated to the Department of Labor and Employment for its Cash for Work programs and aid for displaced workers. 9.5 billion pesos for the transportation sector, 8.9 billion pesos for the education sector, and 24 billion pesos for the agriculture sector. 6 billion pesos will be provided to the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, to finance its programs, including the emergency subsidy.
For those who were under extended lockdown and for mga affected workers talaga. Kasi marami nagsabi hindi sila nakatanggap ng Bayanihan 1. Yung mga creative sector, yung mga part-time teachers ng schools. So sila yung bibigyan ng priority dyan. Pero hindi across the board entitlement.
Meanwhile, the 10 billion peso fund for the tourism sector will be split into various departments. 1 billion pesos for the tourism infrastructure, care of Department of Public Works and Highways. 3 billion pesos for the displaced tourism workers, care of the Labor Department, and 6 billion pesos for the soft loans of micro, small, and medium enterprises under the Small Business Corporation of the Department of Trade and Industry. There will also be a 60-day moratorium for the payment of all kinds of loans and 30-day grace period for the payment of utility bills falling due within the period of enhanced community quarantine or modified ECQ. For its part, the palace thanked the Congress for acting on the measure. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says they will tackle the details of the bill on Monday.
We are thankful for the cooperation extended by both houses of Congress.
For foodies out there, or perhaps you just go hungry at past 8 p.m., don't worry, because you may still call for home delivery of what you're craving for at nighttime. Here's why from Rosa Dicos.
There are exemptions to the unified curfew being implemented in Metro Manila. Now, the entire region is under general community quarantine. Aside from frontliners and people who need emergency services, people working in other essential services are now exempt from the 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew. Those include food delivery in restaurants and fast food chains.
Pinayagan na po magbukas yung ating mga restaurants, fast food chains ng 24 hours sa delivery. No? So yung mga business establishments po na allowed during GCQ, meron na po kayong ma-orderan ng mga delivery. Karamihan po ng ating mga LGUs ngayon sa Metro Manila, naglabas na rin po ng mga EO allowing, 24/7 restaurants na pwede ang delivery.
Third-party food delivery services are also exempted from the unified curfew.
Iba naman pong kategorya ang food, pero yung ibang mga dinideliver, like mga shopping articles, baka hindi po yan i-allow. Pang food po yan,
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA reiterates the unified curfew must be strictly observed in residential areas. Also, the national government calls on the religious sector to follow the policy imposed by the Interagency Task Force Against COVID-19 amid the stricter GCQ. Religious gatherings are limited to 10 persons only.
Pwede naman po na mag-online tayo sa ngayon at obserbahan na muna natin yung 10 persons dahil ito naman po ay temporary lamang.
The palace also reiterates cockfighting remains prohibited. Cockpits, nightclubs, and beer houses will remain shut under GCQ in Metro Manila. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
All police personnel and visitors to Camp Crame are required to undergo a medical assessment before entering the PNP National Headquarters. Our police correspondent Leia Ilagan explains why.
As of August 19, 3,098 police personnel have been infected with COVID-19. Death cases in PNP caused by the disease has reached 14. Now the PNP imposes strict biosafety measures inside its national headquarters. Anyone not wearing a face mask will not be allowed to enter the camp. The wearing of face shield is also mandatory even inside the offices. PNP spokesperson Police Brigadier General Bernard Banac says they are implementing additional biosafety measures because of the rising number of COVID-19 cases within PNP.
Dagdag pa tayo ng isa pang biosafety measure para po mapigilan natin ang transmission ng COVID-19. Ito ay ang paggamit ng face shield para sa lahat ng mga personnel na nakatalaga sa Campo Crame. At ito ay required para din sa lahat ng mga visitors at lahat ng mga magkakaroon ng transaction sa mga frontline services natin sa loob ng Campo Crame.
PNP's figures also include 739 probable COVID-19 cases and 2,412 suspect cases. Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, Valencia City has launched a 24/7 contactless contact tracing center. Dante Amento tells us why.
Valencia City wants to intensify its contact tracing efforts for suspect and probable COVID-19 cases. On Tuesday, the city government launched a contactless contact tracing center. It is operated 24/7 by some 100 personnel that include encoders, contact tracers, and disease surveillance officers. Contact tracers will first communicate with positive patients and then ask for their direct contacts. Afterwards, direct contacts will be asked for the names of people they had come in contact with who are considered as secondary contacts. Professional doctors will visit the homes of both primary and secondary contacts for interviews and swab test.
May sasagot po sa inyo doon at pwede niyo pong idulog ang inyong pong nararamdaman at aalamin naman po nila kung ano mga sintomas na nararamdaman ninyo at immediately naman po ito ay nire-refer sa ating mga doktor. Ang ating mga doktor 24/7 din.
If a contact tests positive, an extraction team will bring them to a quarantine facility. Since the contact tracing center began operating, more than 1,600 individuals have been contacted through the help of 111 positive patients.
For today, meron po kaming 7 patients na dadalawin po sa bahay. 5 of those po, COVID suspects. So titignan muna natin sila, a-assess natin sila.
Authorities call on residents to cooperate with them by reporting their health conditions. For more queries, they can call 137-160 or send an email at valencialacesu2020@gmail.com. Valenzuela City has over 3,000 COVID-19 positive cases in total, of which more than 1,300 are active. Dante Amento, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the country's Department of Health says that 4,339 new cases were reported today based on tests done by 100 out of 109 laboratories. The most number of new cases came from the National Capital Region with nearly 2,600, followed by Laguna with 223. Cebu is also one of the top contributors with 128 new confirmed cases. Now the cumulative cases in the Philippines surpassed 178,000. There are 61,025 active cases, of which 91.3% are in mild condition and 6.6% are asymptomatic. 91 duplicates were removed from the total case count. We have lost 88 more patients, but through our fervent prayers, medical interventions, and sacrifices of our medical frontliners, 727 more people have won their battle against the invisible enemy. That brings the total recoveries nationwide to 114,114. Thanks be to God.
Let's now take a closer look at the updated count of coronavirus cases around the world. The COVID-19 pandemic has now reached a total of more than 22.4 million confirmed cases in 188 countries, regions, and sovereignty. That's after more than 213,000 new cases were reported in various countries. Death toll edges closer to 788,000, while more than 14.3 million patients across the globe have recovered from the new coronavirus infection. Thanks be to God. A lawmaker in the House of Representatives has filed a bill seeking to privatize PhilHealth after corruption exposures during the congressional hearings. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
Marikina City Representative Stella Kimbo sees that it is high time to use the money for Filipino workers contribute to PhilHealth rightfully.
Mabigat ang krisis ngayon sa social health insurance at kailangan na natin gamitin ang expertise ng private sector para magamit ng mabuti ang perang kinakaltas sa ating mga manggagawa.
Representative Kimbo filed House Bill 07429 or the Social Health Insurance Crisis Act. A provision of the bill empowers the Philippine President to privatize the state health insurer. An executive legislative committee will be formed to reorganize the corporation. The agency may enter a contract with a private corporation as a transition team to temporarily implement the National Health Insurance Program under the Universal Health Care Law. Under the bill, the President also has the power to remove and create positions in the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, including the adjustment of salaries. Meanwhile, Minority Floor Leader Bienvenido Abante compares the corruption in PhilHealth to that within the Bureau of Customs, which he said has rooted in the system over a long period of time.
Lumilitaw po dito sa investigasyon namin na may dalawang aspeto ang problema. Una, ang mga sistema at proseso sa PhilHealth. Pangalawa, ang mga tao sa loob ng PhilHealth na ginagamit ang mga buta sa sistema para mangurakot.
The Ombudsman has suspended 13 officials for 6 months while the investigation into the alleged corruption in the agency continues. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
More than 10 local airports still prohibit inbound flights. Meanwhile, the Civil Aeronautics Board mulls over amending the Air Passenger Bill of Rights. Joan Nano tells us why.
Since the coronavirus disease 2019 became a global health emergency, millions of passengers have been forced to cancel their overseas travels. This as various countries, including the Philippines, have imposed travel restrictions. A lot of Filipino air passengers have had difficulties in refunding their tickets from airline companies. Others opted to convert the ticket to a future trip instead. Under the existing law, if a flight gets cancelled due to a force majeure or unexpected circumstances out of human control, the airline company cannot be held liable for the suspension of the flight. However, the airline still has the responsibility to assist their passengers. Now, the Civil Aeronautics Board or CAB is mulling over amending the Air Passenger Bill of Rights, which is applicable in this time of pandemic. But the CAB has yet to detail what provisions it will revise.
Merong isang bagay na pinag-aaralan kami kasi nga itong providing care for the passengers when the cancellation is occasioned by force majeure. Medyo sensitive na issue yan, kasi we are talking here of passengers who are vulnerable, so parang pinag-aaralan namin how can we further support or take care of the passengers.
Based on the projection of the International Civil Aviation Organization or ICAO, it might take 4 years before the aviation sector could recover from losses caused by the coronavirus pandemic. The CAB explains that even as the pandemic ends, the aviation sector will still face huge challenges posed by the impacts of COVID-19 on the global economy.
Yung cycle ng ekonomiya ay kaakibat po niyan yung growth in air travel. Pagka bumababa yung may economic downturn, bumababa din po yung growth sa aviation. So, yan po ang mga challenges natin. Yun din pong passenger confidence dahil parang disincentive din kasi yung mga tedious procedures sa mga airports, sa mga airlines, yung mga testing. Yan po ay siyempre parang ang isang pasahero magtatanong sa sarili niya, how essential is my travel?
As Metro Manila reverts to general community quarantine, several domestic flights coming from Ninoy Aquino International Airport are still a no-go. This as 17 airports operated by the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines or CAAP in several provinces still prohibit inbound flights due to fears of possible entry of COVID-19 carrier. Joanna, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, Filipino health professionals with perfected employment contract as of March 8, 2020 may leave the country according to Malacanang. However, health professionals who have no document from that date are covered by the deployment ban the government is imposing. Through this, the palace refutes statements that there are no exemptions in the deployment ban. Also, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says those who have returned to the Philippines for vacation but with existing work abroad may fly out of the Philippines.
Nadesisyonan po ng IATF ngayong hapon na yung mga health professionals na meron na pong mga papeles, ibig sabihin yung OEC na issued ng POEA at yung employment contract na verified as of March 8, 2020 ay po pwede pong lumabas ng bansa. Uulitin ko po, yung mga health professionals na meron na silang mga OEC issued po ng POEA at yung meron na pong verified employment contract as of March 8, 2020 ay po pwede pong lumabas ng bansa.
Now, here's something to look forward to. Workers who will render duties for their companies during the holidays this month may await additional pay, according to the Labor Department. A DOLA statement today says that additional pay is prescribed during the special non-working holiday on August 21, or the Ninoy Aquino Day, and on August 31, the National Heroes Day, which is a regular holiday. Secretary Sylvester Rebello III reminds employers and the private sector to observe the rules in the computation of wages for both holidays. The advisory, however, notes that the Labor Department allows employers to defer the payment of the holiday pay on August 31, 2020, until the present health emergency situation on COVID-19 pandemic has been abated. Furthermore, establishments that have totally closed or ceased operation during the community quarantine period are exempted from the payment of holiday pay imposed by the advisory.
The Philippine Identification System Registry Office is calling for applicants for contract of service worker positions. Hirees will be assigned at PSA field offices. The position includes Registration Officers 1 and 2 to join the PhilSys pre-registration team. The positions are open for job seekers with a bachelor's degree relevant to the job and with at least a CS professional second level eligibility. For full details regarding the call, visit PSA's social media accounts and its website at psa.gov.ph.
Well, here's some good news to MRT passengers. All escalators and elevators of MRT 3 are fully operational beginning today. That's after Sumitomo Mitsubishi Heavy Industries TESP completed the repair works of non-operation units. MRT passengers remember the mandatory wearing of face shield, observe physical distancing, and no talking when on board MRT trains. Expect the presence of train marshals to monitor the compliance of passengers with health and safety protocols. Now, here's a glimpse of what's the weather like in parts of the country. Still brace for more rains. A low-pressure area will bring rains in various parts of the country. State Weather Bureau Pagasa says as of 3 p.m. today, the LPA was spotted at 95 kilometers east-southeast of Casiguran, Aurora. This LPA and the southwest monsoon will bring cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms over Metro Manila, the rest of Luzon, and western Visayas. Meanwhile, Mindanao and the rest of Visayas will experience partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers due to localized thunderstorms. Possible flash floods or landslides may occur during severe thunderstorms. No tropical cyclone advisory is issued. And our snappy news. The DSWD, as of August 19, has disbursed about 78.4 billion pesos to more than 13.1 million families who are beneficiaries of the government's Social Amelioration Program's second tranche. BRP Gabriela Silang transported some 200 locally stranded individuals to Zamboanga today. The number of total confirmed COVID-19 cases among Filipinos abroad comes close to 10,000. The Philippine Stock Exchange says there will be no trading tomorrow, August 21, in observance of the Ninoy Aquino Day. Trading resumes on Monday, August 24.
The Quezon City government opens dormitories for medical frontliners working in the city. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why.
There are more than 50 private and public hospitals in Quezon City. To ease some problems of the health workers and give some comfort, the government has opened a dormitory at the Quezon Memorial Circle. The 6 clusters of dormitories can house 192 individuals. The facility is fully air-conditioned with living rooms, dining area, laundry, and kitchen. According to Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte, the dorm is open to all healthcare workers whose duty is in the city.
They might be living elsewhere, which makes it difficult now for them to go to their hospitals where they serve. So this, in fact, will serve more those frontliners who work in Quezon City but live in other parts of the metropolis.
Also, the QC government is now stricter in enforcing health protocols in workplaces and business establishments. A group of 18 enforcers who will go undercover will make rounds in the city to monitor the compliance of establishments.
Secret A-team ko to, hindi naka-uniform. I have the instructions to them that kailangan kapag talagang ayaw mag-comply, pwede natin i-revoke ang kanilang mga business permits. Kailangan medyo level up na rin ang enforcement natin ngayon.
The monitoring includes construction sites.
Kaya we have talked to the DPWH, other members of the DPWH who have projects here kung pwede maging mas stricto sila sa kanilang mga construction projects. Pero hindi lamang sila, other private construction companies as well.
The city issued a cease and desist order to around 70 construction companies last week for violating health protocols like the absence of safety officer as well as the personal and health records of personnel. The companies were fined accordingly and will not be able to continue operation until they finish the 14-day quarantine protocol and pass the city's assessment. Vincent Arboleda, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Land Transportation Office will issue driver's licenses with 10-year validity, but only to qualified drivers. The agency also records demerit points for every traffic law violation of corresponding drivers. Let's find out why from Asher Kadapan Jr. live. Yes, Asher.
Arlene, as early as now, the Land Transportation Office informs all drivers to strictly abide by the traffic laws. This is because the LTO is providing driver's licenses with a 10-year validity to drivers who will not incur any traffic law violations. The government agency will start to issue such provisions as drivers renew their licenses starting October 2021.
Yung pagpapalawig ng ating lisensya hanggang 10 years, mangyayari ito sa starting October 2021. But hindi lahat ng driver's license possessor makakapag-enjoy nitong 10-year validity ng license kung siya ay merong demerit point.
Galvante further explains that the LTO is implementing a demerit against motorists violating any traffic law depending on the gravity of the violation. A less grave violation may become grave if it becomes repetitious. Grave violations also include driving any vehicle used in a crime, driving under the influence of alcohol and illegal drugs, and driving colorum vehicles. The LTO records demerits and corresponding violations in the agency's data system.
At kung ito ay maka-accumulate ng several demerit points during the duration of the validity of the license, maaaring magkaroon ng mga imposition of fines and penalties.
Harleen?
Asher, just to give context, why does the LTO have to implement such conditions amid the pandemic?
Harleen, providing drivers with licenses valid for 10 years will give convenience from the renewal process on the LTO and the drivers end. Limiting this provision to qualified drivers will also serve as a recognition and encouragement to those who strive to adhere to the law or the traffic laws, and most importantly, avoid road accidents. Arlene.
All right, thank you so much, Asher Kadapan Jr. for that report. Meanwhile, Manila City Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso wants to deport two Chinese nationals, namely Shi Zongxing and Shi Lili. This comes after some cosmetic products sold in their stores have the labels branding the country's capital city as a province of China. Moreno says he will write to the Bureau of Immigration to declare these two Chinese businessmen as undesirable aliens. He also criticized the Chinese nationals for disrespecting the sovereignty of the country. Manila City's local chief executive also ordered the closure of their establishments and the revocation of permit of their businesses.
And for the news abroad, Australian Minister for Health Greg Hunt announced that Australians could lose access to some welfare payments if they reject coronavirus vaccination after Prime Minister Scott Morrison acknowledged that coronavirus vaccination would not be deemed mandatory in Australia. It will not be mandatory, but it will be widely encouraged, Health Minister Hunt said. As Australia signs the letter of intent with drug company AstraZeneca, which is working with Oxford University for the prospected coronavirus vaccine, the government ensures an adequate supply will be secured. To ensure a high uptake, Health Minister Greg Hunt says the government would take consideration in applying measures such as no jab, no pay, which involve children having to be immunized to be eligible for the child care subsidy and the full family tax benefit A payment. Some states, including Victoria, Queensland, New South Wales, Western Australia, and South Australia also have a law called No Jab, No Play, requiring children to be vaccinated fully before enrolling to kindergarten or childcare. Prime Minister Scott Morrison is also committed to ensuring that its regional partners in Southeast Asia and Australia's Pacific family will have early access to the vaccine. As of today, Australia has a total of 23,993 confirmed cases of COVID-19, having Victoria being on the top with 17,446 confirmed cases, and sadly, there have been 450 deaths. Elsewhere in South Korea, authorities in capital city Seoul bans the gathering of more than 10 people. This measure comes after new cases of coronavirus infection reached a 5-month high at 3 digits. The measure takes effect tomorrow and will remain in place until the end of August. The newest cluster of cases is linked to a local church, which has spread to over 100 facilities in Greater Seoul, according to authorities. Today, 288 cases were added to South Korea's cumulative cases, which have reached 16,346. Let's now take a closer look at the updated count of coronavirus cases in countries worst hit by the pandemic. The United States of America remains as the top contributor to the COVID-19 numbers, with more than 5.5 million confirmed cases. On the other hand, Brazil's health ministry says there are signs the coronavirus outbreak in the country, the world's second worst, could be about to slow down. The South American country has surpassed the 3.4 million mark. Meanwhile, India reports a record daily jump in infections of close to 70,000. The total number of cases in the country now stands at about 2.84 million, according to official data published on Thursday. A further 997 deaths were reported, taking the total number of fatalities to 53,886. Russia has kept its death cases below 20,000, while South Africa nears 600,000 cumulative cases. Meanwhile, several European countries like Germany, Spain, and Italy are taking precautions again with a new spike in their numbers. The United States government has officially suspended its extradition treaty with Hong Kong over concerns that the Chinese government's new national security law is eroding its autonomy. In a statement released on Wednesday, the U.S. State Department announced that Washington would be suspending or eliminating 3 treaties with the former British colony. These agreements cover the surrender of fugitive offenders, the transfer of sentenced persons, and reciprocal tax exemptions on income derived from the international operation of ships. In a tweet, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that the agreements had been suspended because the ruling Chinese Communist Party had chosen to crush the freedoms and autonomy of the people of Hong Kong. For its part, China strongly condemns the U.S. suspension of extradition treaty with HK or Hong Kong and has decided to suspend Hong Kong's implementation of its treaty on mutual judicial assistance with the U.S., according to foreign spokesperson Zhao Lijian. Also here in Australia, the Queensland Police mourns the passing of their youngest member, Special Junior Constable Travis Hiring, who was sworn into the service on July 3. According to Queensland Police, Travis succumbed to his illness and passed away on Sunday, August 16, with his beloved parents and family by his side. In December 2019, Travis was diagnosed with diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, or DIPG, an incurable and inoperable tumor of the brainstem which acts like pepper in jelly, slowly dispersing through the nervous system and removing the body's ability to function. Travis received 30 radiation treatments, which successfully gave him full motion back. And for 2 months, Travis got to be a normal 6-year-old boy again. But the tumor returned a lot more rapidly than expected and entered a state of degenerative progression. The Brisbane boy was 6 years, 10 months, 20 days old when he passed after battling his illness for 9 months. His mother, Kay, says that little Travis has always wanted to be a police officer. His courage was beyond measure. In a tweet, Queensland Police says, "It was our honor to call Special Junior Constable Travis their little brother." And more snappy news. Australian flag carrier Qantas reports an annual loss of almost 2 billion Australian dollars as it deals with the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. The UK may remove Croatia from its safe list of countries as early as Thursday. And today is World Mosquito Day, celebrated every August 20 to honor the discovery of the link between humans, malaria, and mosquitoes, made by Sir Ronald Ross in 1897. The Brooklyn Museum and El Museo del Barrio in New York will reopen to the public on September 12.
A group of scientists believe that life forms already existed on ocean floor over 500 million years ago. Here's why from Jovic Bermas.
After 20 years of research work, a group of scientists led by Louis Botois from University of Saskatchewan in Canada examined hundreds of rock formations in different locations across every continent. They found complex holes and structures in the ocean floor's mud and sand, tunneled by worm-like animals and other sea creatures, which served as a crucible for life 540 million years ago. According to Botois, life continued to expand over the next million years from this area outwards into the deeper waters and inwards into the shallower waters. The Earth scientists managed to present for the first time evidence of animals actively engineering their ecosystem by constructing abundant and diverse burrows on the seafloor of the world's oceans in this ancient time. This study helps researchers to understand the changes that took place early in our planet's history, particularly with respect to oxygen changes, and helps us face present challenges in modern oceans. Jovic Bermas, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
Let's celebrate the good deeds people can do in the middle of the pandemic. Take a look at this. Lewis Hamilton, yes, that award-winning British Formula One racer did just this to a cleaning lady. So the plan was to give the lady a cap, but before that, Lewis, who became the youngest Formula One world champion in 2008, signed his gift. And when the cleaning lady received the present from Lewis, of course, she could say nothing else but thank you. She was even caught in surprise. Here's that video.
Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. It looks so good on you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, that's definitely the kind of thing that we need to do despite the ongoing crisis that the world is facing right now, doing good deeds even in the very littlest of ways. And those are the reasons behind the news, August 20, 2020. I am Jorlene Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Mariel Latoza.
And I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.